A note before we start. A copy of our featured speaker, Dr. Stacy Palmer's presentation is available by clicking a link in the weekly GAPS update email 12625. Thanks.
Welcome. It is so good to see all of you here. This is the Georgetown Area Parkinson Support Group, and it is an honor to be here. I am not Mary Jane Berry. And I was really hoping that Mary Jane would be here today. She is not. She is traveling. But her and Dave do plan on being here in the future. They are very much a part of this community and aren't going anywhere. So that is good. But my name is actually James Lavender. If I've met you, I probably don't remember your name. That's just true because I am horrible at names. But before this is all said and done, I will know all of your names. In fact, at the count of three, if you'll all just tell me your names, first name only. 1, 2, 3, go. Got it. I got half of you over here and 2 or 3 of you. It is an honor to be able to serve as the executive director of this organization. And just know, just from the onset, that we are here to serve you in any way, shape, or form that we possibly can. I want to do just a little bit more to get to know you guys. How many of you, this is like your 5th year being part of this community? Okay, awesome. How many of you, with your hands still up, you might actually get a door prize. Mary Jane always did raffles. I don't do raffles, but I might give you something. With your hands up, how many of you have been here more than 8 years? I see a couple of hands up. If I go to 10, am I gonna weed you out? I still see 3 hands up if I go to 12 years. Okay, y'all are thinking about it. Oh, Anita, did you put your hand down? What's the real number? Are you at 12?
5.
You're at 5? We're at 12 right now, though. You do have to put your hand in. How many years?
29.
29 years. That is awesome. And your name is?
John Henry.
John, it's a pleasure to meet you. It's an honor to meet you. I'm glad to hear about your 29 years. I have a water bottle here for you. Will you make sure that gets back to him? Awesome. Thank you for being here, John. 29 years. Let's do this. How many of you have been here a year or less? Hands up. Oh, wow. 6 months. Keep your hands up. Who's first time coming to one of these today? Oh, that's awesome. There are way too many hands up. For those of you who are first time, put your hand back up for me. How many of you came more than 5 miles? More than 10 miles away? More than 15 miles away? 20 miles? Okay, 17 miles away. Because you both dropped your hands at the same time. Actually, I got 2 things for you. Frank, will you make sure that man right back? What is your name, sir? John, and where are you from? Cedar Park. Glad you're here. And you, sir?
Peter.
Peter, where are you from?
Gerald.
Gerald? Glad that you're here. I got an Arctic tumbler with your name on it. If you want to come grab that, make sure you get it.
John,
Thank you.
hiding from?
So honored that you guys are here, and can't wait to get to meet you as we move forward. And I actually prepared notes for this presentation so that I didn't have to have anything memorized. In our technology, we're having issues, so I apologize that I don't have any of this memorized. But I do have our mission statement memorized, which we have updated as a board this year, and it is this: to unite individuals, families, care partners, and professionals in the fight against Parkinson's disease and movement disorders. Our mission statement used to talk about the things that we do, and it didn't really capture the heart of why we do things. At the end of the day, this community exists not because of this meeting, not because of our socials that we do, which, by the way, we had 41 people last week at our first social, which was awesome. It's not because of our classes. It's because of this community of people right here and the strength within this community to walk together through this journey. And so that is why we're here. And so I'm so honored to lead this group and for you to be here. And just know at the end of the day, this whole thing is about building community for you guys. And that is what we are here to do. What does that look like for us? Our vision, just so you can hear this, is for a vibrant community that inspires hope. That's exactly what we're trying to do, is inspire hope, provide support and resources for you guys, and empower you. Empower those affected by Parkinson's disease and movement disorders. How do we do that? I kind of talked about it just a second ago. We do that a couple of different ways. Our primary way is this gathering right here that meets every month in this gymnasium. We're so grateful for our partnership with First Baptist Church to be able to host this. As you can imagine, as many people that are here, it's hard to find places that can hold this many people, and yet here we are. And so that is one of the things that we do. Another thing that we do that's kind of similar to this, we do it on a somewhat regular basis. I won't say every month, but we do what we call lunch and learns, and we do that over at the Grand, which is right across the street. Once a month, we'll bring a presenter in, they will bring a lunch in, and they will share on a particular topic with all of us. So that's number 2 thing that we do. The third thing that we do, second thing, are our classes. How many of you attend one of our classes? Any kind of our classes? Show of hands. Okay, some of you, not all of you. We offer a myriad of classes, and before you leave today, you will get to hear more about them. And I just want to encourage you, pick one and try it out. And over the next month, I just want to encourage you to pick one of our classes. There's a class every day of the week, Monday through Friday, and I just really encourage you to take a step of faith and join one of our classes and just see how that goes. And then finally, I just mentioned it, we get together to have fun. We love hosting socials. We were at the Palomino last week, 41 of us. I had it wasn't called the Diablo burger, but it was their spicy burger. It is the Diablo. It was fantastic. And so we are going to continue to do socials. In fact, our next one I'll tell you about here in just a little while. But we'd really encourage you guys to come and be part of our socials as well. Would be remiss without some amazing people who really make this community go, and there are our community partners. A lot of them have been with us for a number of years, so it'd be remiss if I don't mention them. Supernus and AbbVie, Acadia, Amneal, the Grand Living, David's here, Medtronic, the Anna and Anton Olson Legacy Foundation, and Visiting Angels. In fact, the Anna and Anton one, I'm going to give them a little bit of publicity right now. That is a grant that we applied for. It was the first time we'd really applied for a grant, and it allowed us to be able to spend some funds, or to receive some funds, to do some leadership development, some strategic planning work for our organization and specifically for our board. So we're really, really grateful for their partnership. One of our classes that we like to offer, and it happens every week. It does not happen here. It actually happens at the Church of Christ, which is the church next door here, is our chair yoga class with Anne-Marie Combs. It happens Wednesdays at 11:30. It goes for about an hour. Who's ever been to that class? I know a couple of you have. Yep, it's a great class. I really encourage you to consider that opportunity to do that 1 hour class. It's chair, so you're seated, but yoga, it works on your dexterity and your strength and all those kinds of things. And this is the point where I get to make fun of Anne-Marie just a little bit, because she's supposed to be leading an exercise session with us right here, right now. But she forgot, and she's having a refrigerator delivered to her home right now. And she chose the refrigerator. I'm sorry, guys. She did. I mean, it's important, right? You need a refrigerator in your home. So what I'm going to do, I've already found my warrior here. I'm going to invite our board chair up, Stephen. Stephen runs an organization called Loud and Clear, which is an app for speech therapy. I'm going to let him talk more about that and walk us through some speech exercises right now before we hear from our presenter. And will you guys please give it up for him, because he's doing this cold turkey. You're on. You're not Anne-Marie.
Yeah, can everybody hear me okay? Okay, awesome. Thank you, guys. I'm going to do a little bit of ad hoc work here. So, pleasure to be with you all. Thank you guys for making it out here. I'm very, like James mentioned, I'm the chair for Georgetown Area Parkinson Support Group, and when we switched EDs, Mary Jane just has that, I didn't get a chance to hug you, I'm so happy to see you. We all love Mary Jane, we all love James. Thank you guys for keeping that continuity, and I'm promising that 2025 it's going to be the best year for GAPS. So I got the privilege to lead us in some voice exercises a couple months ago. Who was here for that? Raise your hand if you have already seen me up on this stage do some of that stuff before. Okay, so not as much overlap as I was worried about. James, you want this to take about 5 minutes, is that true?
You got 5 to 10.
Okay, I'll keep it closer to 5 for everybody's sake. So, like James mentioned, I have an app called Loud and Clear. It's voice exercise for people with Parkinson's. It's completely free. It's available on your smartphones. It's available on your tablets. I also run a class Fridays, 11 o'clock on Zoom. Many people in this room come to it every single Friday. It's really, really cool. And today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lead us through a couple of the warm-ups that I do in those exercise Friday voice exercise classes together. But I'm going to try and spend as little time doing that as possible and try and do some different speaking exercises. A little education piece here. You'll hear me say this when you come to my Friday classes. You can go, I will not think it's rude right now to pull out your phone, go to loudandclear.io, click the green button to sign up. Totally fine. It sounds like I might be talking too fast. I tend to do that. Linda, do you agree? Fridays?
I'm from New York.
Okay. Linda's from New York, so I'm off the hook with her. I can slow it down just a little bit. We're going to start with some warm-ups, which I call the recalibration piece. The reason I call that recalibration is because for most of our lives, we spoke with this much effort and got out this much volume, right? But because of Parkinson's, the number one symptom people will experience with their voice, 90% of people, by the way, will experience a change in their voice if they have Parkinson's, is what feels like this level of effort is actually giving you a much lower volume. Happy to see you, by the way. So, when I say recalibrate, what I'm saying is, hey, let's recalibrate what is that normal level, what feels normal instead of being here. Let's recalibrate an increased level of effort because that will bring your volume back from mediocre back to normal. That's really what we're going for here. So, this is our recalibration piece. Everybody put your feet flat on the ground. Scoot your booty all the way back in your chair. Have your shoulders nice and upright. Very good, very good. I'm just going to start with a couple deep breaths. Okay, we're just going to take 3 deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. We're just going to do 2 more of those. Last one, in through your nose. Hold it if you can, and then out through your mouth. Okay, so your breath support is the fuel for your speech, right? Your lungs being able to fill up with enough air for you to talk for a long time. That's the fuel behind your voice, okay? So that's why your posture is really important, and those deep breaths through your nose are really important. Your nose is your body's humidifier. It's going to warm and moisten that air coming in. We're just going to do 3 different warm-ups. All right, so the first warm-up, we're just going to do a sustained awe. I'll demonstrate, you join on the next one, okay? Just watch first. I'm going to take that same deep breath. Check out my posture. I like to put a hand on my stomach so I can feel my diaphragm move when I take a deep breath. And I say, how'd that sound? Pretty good, right? That was a good one for me. I gotta say, that was a good one. You're going to join me on the next one. If this is something you do regularly, and we know that 10 seconds is too short, great, go for 15 seconds. If this is something you do regularly, and you know that 10 seconds is too long for you, fine, go for 5 or 6 seconds. I don't want to hear, where you're just punishing yourself through that like badly vocally abusive. You're going to develop nodules or polyps if you do that too much, okay? 10 seconds, deep breath, here we go, all together. And go. Linda, by the way, is one of our rock stars. She comes every Friday. She's joined us all the way. What's the farthest place you've joined us from?
Italy.
Rome, Italy. She has come to our voice class from Rome, Italy. So Be thinking about that when you're in your PJs, wondering if you can make it all the way from your couch to your kitchen table to sign on, okay? So the next warm-up we're going to do is just a variation of what we did just now. 2 major characteristics of your voice. Your volume, how loud are you? And your pitch. How high, how low do you speak? We're going to change our volume. We're not going to change our pitch. So that same mid-level tone, was it for me. I am going to change my volume. Watch first. You'll join me on the next one. Same deep breath. Same pretty good posture. I tend to slouch over time. Just watch. How'd that sound, Don?
Good.
Thank you. You sound great today, by the way. All right. Everybody feel okay about that? I'm mostly going to listen on this one. I want to hear you guys. So, same deep breath, same good posture, shoulders back. Here we go. Deep breath in. Soft, soft. Good, good, good. A little louder, a little louder, a little louder, a little louder. All right, we're coming back down, 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 down. Hey, that was really good. That was very impressive. I actually think that's the hardest warm-up that we do. I tend to sound really nice on the way up and then fall off the cliff on the way back down. When you come to my Friday voice classes, I'll give you variations you can do on that. The last recalibration piece I want to do here is, instead of changing our volume, we're going to be loud the whole time. We are going to change our pitch. Low to high, back to low. Just watch first, join me on the next one, okay? Here I go. Just watch. Alright, that was a good one, right guys? Feel free to give it up. Alright, no, just kidding. Hold your applause. Alright, all together on this one, right? Low and loud, up high, back low. Here we go. Deep breath in through your nose. Here we go. I lost some volume there, but just totally normal. That happens all the time, all the time. Okay, we're going to do one more thing before I hand it back over to James. We're just going to do this as a group. So that was the recalibration piece. We were trying to reset what feels like a normal level of effort. You all did fantastically. That is not our goal with voice exercise together. Our goal is to keep you connected to your loved ones by you maintaining and strengthening your voice. Okay? So the reason we do our speaking exercises is to carry over that recalibrated voice. So you'll hear me say carry over a ton in our Friday classes. Linda's going to be my guinea pig first. You guys are all going to do what she does after this one. So I'm going to say, you can't judge a book, and Linda's going to say,
by its cover.
Very good. All right, so let's all practice. You can't judge a book.
By its cover.
Whoa, good volume. Perfect. We're going to do 10 of those, and then I'm all done. All right, you guys ready? By the way, this is straight from my app. You can lead a horse to water, but
you can't make it drink.
Very good. And by the way, I don't care if you get the answer right. Feel free to make up whatever ending you want, as long as you're thinking and you're being loud. If you're thinking and you're being loud, A+. Out of the frying pan and
Into the fire.
slow and steady.
Wins the race.
Very good. Good things come. Yeah, let's take a deep breath here, guys. Don't put all your eggs
In one basket.
All right. 2, 3 more. An apple a day.
Keeps the doctor away.
Listen to this volume. I love it. All right. Let's hear it a little bit more over here. You can't have your cake and
Eat it too.
last one. Let's see who knows this one. A stitch in time.
Save time.
Hey, guys, thank you very much for letting me come up here and lead you in some voice.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm really excited for our presenter today because it's her first time here at GAPS, and I've already heard amazing reviews on her speeches. She was at Sun City, I think, a week or so ago. She's going to be at Sun City again this week, and just so excited to welcome her here. Stacy is a board-certified family nurse practitioner. She attended the University of Texas at Austin. Welcome. Come on now. Where she earned a Bachelor of Science in Nursing in 2000. Following graduation, she worked as an RN at Seton Medical Center at the cardiac-focused intensive care units before returning to graduate school in 2010 at Texas Tech? Oh man, University Health Sciences Center. During that time, Stacy began working in the Georgetown community in home health, hospice, and at St. David's Georgetown Intensive Care Unit. She completed her clinical rotations with Dr. Bob Falk in Georgetown Medical Center and was board certified as a family nurse practitioner in 2012. Stacy then began working with Elite Patient Care, where over the last 10 years she has served in various leadership positions and honed her skills and expertise in adult and geriatric medicine, skilled nursing, assisted living, palliative care, and hospice. Following a health crisis in 2016, Stacy found a new passion in lifestyle medicine and returned to the University of Texas at Austin, thank you very much, to complete her Doctor of Nursing practice with a focus on preventing and treating chronic disease and obesity through diet. Stacy's married to her high school sweetheart, Jared, who's right back there somewhere. There we go. And they've raised a family in Georgetown since 2007. When they aren't traveling for their kids' golf tournaments, they are active in the local church, enjoy trips to the beach, and just hanging out at home with their 10-year-old English bulldog. Will you please give Stacy a nice GAPS welcome? And as she comes up, we're going to change computers, so just hang on 1 second here.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay? Okay. So a little update, that was my bio from Georgetown Medical Center when I was first there. So I'm not at Georgetown Center for Adult Medicine anymore, and my sweet 10-year-old bulldog passed. So I know, that was like my four-legged child. But I have two rescue mini schnauzers that have filled that little hole in my heart. So as James so kindly read my bio there, I am a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner. I am board certified in family medicine and lifestyle medicine, which is that DipACLM there at the end of my name. And I'm happy to announce, like I said, I'll be joining Harbor Health here in February. So if anybody's looking for me, this is my lovely family. Like James said, my husband, Jared, he plays IT support whenever he is available. And then I have my daughter at the end, Maddie. She's 21. She plays golf down at Texas State. She does not have yellow hair. I don't know why the picture looks that way. And then my youngest one, Mabry, she's 16, and she plays golf at Georgetown as well. So I'm going to talk to you today about looking at Parkinson's through a lifestyle medicine lens. I'm very passionate about the way I practice medicine because it's personal for me. The trajectory of my life was changed dramatically, and it changed the way I practice medicine because of my own illness. So I was diagnosed with Graves' disease after being admitted to St. David's Georgetown Hospital in thyroid storm, like James said, in 2016. I took health into my own hands and researched everything I could find about autoimmune diseases, which led me to inflammation and food. I tried every diet book on the market, from keto to grain brain to wheat belly, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, and all of the ones in between. The last book I got to was called Eat to Live by Dr. Joel Fuhrman. I was so sick of being sick, I was willing to try anything, and I just jumped in with both feet. I lost 18 pounds in 6 weeks and 45 pounds in 8 months. Everything about my health rapidly improved, as well as my lab. And I remember my endocrinologist scouring her desk on one of my final appointments because she couldn't believe the dramatic change in my thyroid function. I was eventually taken off all of my medications, and I've lived this way for 5 years. And my health just keeps getting better. I'm healthier now at 50 than I ever was at 30 even. So the agenda today, I want to talk to you a little bit about our current state of health and healthcare in America, as well as about the practice gap that's perpetuating so many of our chronic disease issues. These are important also for understanding the pathophysiology behind Parkinson's and movement disorders and the rapid increase in our Parkinson's cases. A little caveat, this is not meant to substitute for medical advice, so anything you want to do, talk to your primary care provider. Okay, so our current state of health. So 2/3 of Americans are overweight or obese. Adult diabetes has tripled in the last 20 years, and 1 in 3 people have prediabetes. Our current incidence of Parkinson's is 1.5 times higher than previous rates. A 2022 Parkinson's Foundation-backed study revealed that nearly 90,000 people are diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in the U.S. This is a very steep 50% increase from previous estimates. Chronic diseases are responsible for 7 of 10 of our deaths yearly. And then if you look and see what we're eating, 89% of our current American diet is comprised of animal and processed foods. So this is what our culture's diet looks like, lovingly known as SAD, the standard American diet. So the U.S. diet scored 11 points out of 100 on a healthy alternative eating index. Across 185 countries, the median score was 40, and we scored at the bottom with Brazil and Mexico. So you might wonder why, I'm talking about this, how does this affect you? Because unfortunately, your healthcare providers parallel the general public in nutrition knowledge, and they're eating the same things you are. So what's so concerning, of course, is what we're not eating, but it's also about what we are not eating. Very concerned about what we're not eating and what we are eating. That fiber, antioxidants, phytochemicals, these are the key nutrients that prevent disease and cancers. The average American gets about 10 grams of fiber per day, when our recommendation is 30 minimum. You can see here at the bottom of the screen, 11% of our diet comes from whole grains, beans, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. And that technically is supposed to be 90% of our diet. There's so much contradictory information circulating, seemingly reputable sources, so it's really hard to decipher truth from fiction. Dietary confusion is purposeful. It's a marketing strategy. This is why it's so important for you and your medical professionals to know what the scientific literature truly says. So what does the science say? Study after study, decade upon decade, have demonstrated that a plant-based diet prevents and treats the most common chronic diseases. Studies from the 19th century to today overwhelmingly produce the same results. I mean, you can cherry pick an article for anything you want to support. I can even find a handful of studies that tell you smoking is good for you. It decreases anxiety, research proven, and as you'll see later on in this, it actually helps to decrease some Parkinson's cases. The research is actually backed to that. However, I can find thousands of studies that tell you it causes cancer in literally almost every organ in your body. So you really have to go where the girth of the research is. And so that really applies also to dietary guidance. There's a handful of studies that benefit keto or paleo, but like I said, you have to look to see where is the majority of the studies. How long have those studies been around? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? And who funded those studies? So why aren't you hearing this in the exam room? Again, it kind of comes down to marketing on this as well. The first medical schools were funded by the Rockefellers, who laid the foundation for what we know today as the pharmaceutical industry, and my husband's a drug rep, so I'm not knocking the drug industry. They are very necessary. But this did set up a partnership where it's reported that 2/3 of medical school funding is from pharmaceutical industries, as well as the device companies. So you can imagine it's hard to, rock this foundation. And it's hurting our healthcare too. Oh, but I was going to say one thing. 2/3 of medical school funding is from pharmaceutical industries, as well as the device companies. So you can imagine it's hard to, rock this foundation. And it's hurting our healthcare too. Oh, but I was going to say one thing. Here at the very bottom, the American Academy of Lifestyle Medicine, they're working to get education disseminated into our providers. They're working to get this information into medical programs, and they're making some really good headway. So because I've seen firsthand how diet reverses disease, I practice differently now. I've taken all the years of research and evidence I've learned, and I've created a new approach to visit with my patients. And I've seen dramatic results across various disease processes, including Parkinson's. So just a little background here. So Parkinson's disease is the fastest growing neurological disease and the second most prevalent neurodegenerative disorder following Alzheimer's. The most common risk factor for Parkinson's, unfortunately, is aging, so that's better than the alternative though. Cases are expected to exceed 1.2 million by 2030. And And I know you're all very well versed in the pathophysiology of Parkinson's and movement disorder, but I do just want to hit a couple of highlights and a few points where research is really focusing for management and prevention. So as we know, the symptoms are related to the loss of the neurons that contain dopamine, which is responsible for movement, cognition, mood, balance. And brain images also may demonstrate that Lewy bodies are due to this misfolded alpha-synuclein, which is I'm going to talk about later. Causes of the loss of the neuron are thought to be due to oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, elevated homocysteine, and inflammation. Current treatment is based on medications, so the L-DOPA or levodopa, which is an amino acid precursor to the dopamine, combined with that carbidopa to protect the L-DOPA from breakdown in the body before it can get to the brain. So though very effective, it does have some caveats like any medication. Long-term use can lead to some toxicities and inflammation and disruption of metabolic molecules. Research also shows that tolerance or ineffectiveness decline around 5 years may occur, though there's some controversy on whether this is more related to the progression of the Parkinson's or the effectiveness of the medication. Research has found that genes play a minimal role and genetic mutation is extremely rare. So it's believed most cases are sporadic and caused by exogenous environmental factors. So in that overview, I mentioned the Lewy body and the misfolding of alpha-synuclein. So this is a great visual of what's happening in the brain causing that process. As you can see that top arrow pointing to that little squiggly alpha-synuclein. And in its intended role, alpha-synuclein regulates the neurotransmitter release and other cell functions. However, in a disease state, it's thought that that alpha-synuclein binds together in that donut shape you can see, inserts into the plasma, and forms that little pore. This allows calcium ions to accumulate at a toxic level, which leads to that oxidative stress that destroys the neurons. Some calcium channel blocking medications have been used to kind of prevent some of the calcium from getting through, but rather than having an overabundance of alpha-synuclein causing these Lewy bodies, it's now suspected to be this mutant form of alpha-synuclein that doesn't easily degrade in the body. And we'll touch back on that one just a little bit in a minute. With a significant increase in Parkinson's and movement cases, research has intensified not only on the cause of the disease, but what are the best modalities for treatment and management. And this has really produced some really promising results. There's some great studies with really robust samples, as well as some significant longevity. So treatment for Parkinson's and movements largely focused on medications, deep brain stimulators, and the focused ultrasounds. However, there is a rapidly expanding body of research contributing to the link between lifestyle and brain health. A few of the foundational studies are this Health Professionals Follow-Up Study, which actually started in 1986, and the Nurses Health Study, which started in 1976. Both of these studies are actually still in progress collecting data. They looked at over 130,000 subjects, 500 of them had Parkinson's, and found that a plant-based diet not only protected against Parkinson's, but also improved many of their symptoms. So after 20 years, specific foods were identified with a lower risk. Tea, berries, apple, red wine, and oranges. And before you get too excited about red wine, there's a significant controversy because it's also known as a neurotoxin. So more recent research demonstrates that the beneficial properties are actually related to the polyphenols and the antioxidants from the grapes. Because also in those same studies, it was also discovered that alcohol increased other chronic conditions like hypertension and diabetes. So just eat the grapes. A cup of grapes has the same amount of resveratrol as 5 ounces of wine. So research has undeniably found the link between inflammation and diets and chronic diseases, leading to studies that focus on nutrition and the prevention of disease. A few great examples are the study here in 2001, demonstrating a slowing of the loss of neurons with a plant-based diet versus a diet high in animal fat and cholesterol. And then this more recent study here in 2023 that looked at the risk of Parkinson's over a 12-year period. It found consuming a healthy plant-based diet actually decreased their risk considerably. However, it was also noted eating an unhealthy plant-based diet increased their risk. So Oreos and Doritos do not count. Continuing with the research, this 2023 study found that healthy body weight is associated with a younger brain, likely related to the decline in the oxidative stress. This study built on a 2012 study that demonstrated plant compounds have neuroprotective properties like visitin and hexacosanol. A dietitian actually put these findings to the test on herself after being diagnosed with Parkinson. She started eating strawberries, wheat germ, whole wheat, brown rice a couple of times a week, and saw many of her symptoms resolve. It's also been demonstrated that the timing of protein may play a role in the management of Parkinson's. In 2016, this 55-year-old man adjusted his diet to a protein redistribution diet pattern for 9 months and found significant improvement in his L-DOPA dose and his symptoms. So by decreasing the competing amino acid precursors of the L-DOPA medication regimen, your medication can actually be more effective at lower doses, and you can have more predictable symptoms, as we'll kind of see here on these next slides. So I found this research really interesting because after starting a plant-based diet with me, I had a patient with Parkinson's who said her neurologist wanted her to get at least 100 grams of protein. She didn't know why, other than she thought it was because he wanted her to maintain muscle mass. So as we discussed that, and we talked about getting enough calories, you'll get enough protein, I started researching the literature for this recommendation of 100 grams of protein, for Parkinson's. And I found exactly the opposite. In 2017, this study looked at the timing of protein intake and found that people who consumed more than 10 grams over the recommendation, which is 0.8 grams per kilogram per day. So for women, about 46, for men, about 56. So for those having 10 grams more than what they really needed, they actually had to use a higher dose of their levodopa. But why would this be? Because both protein and levodopa use the same amino acid transport to get across the blood-brain barrier. So if there's less protein, which is broken down into amino acids, there's less competition for that L-DOPA to get across the brain, making the medication dose more efficacious. There's some recommendations that recommend about 7 grams of protein for your day meals and then getting the majority of your protein at night. And because plant proteins are lower in the amino acids that compete with L-DOPA, they've been found to be less competitive. And to help keep those L-DOPA doses as low as possible for the management of your symptoms, it's recommended to have your protein at least 30 minutes before or 1 hour after your medications. And then kind of to stick to some of those more plant-based proteins. So as I said, both protein and levodopa use the same amino acid transport to get across that blood-brain barrier. If there's less protein, again, less amino acids, there's less amino acid competition for your L-DOPA, allowing that dose to be better. So animal meats contain all 9 of our essential amino acids. So for example, turkey is high in tryptophan, which competes with serotonin, and it also has tyrosine, which competes with L-DOPA. The plant proteins, however, don't have all 9 essential amino acids in one food. To help keep the L-DOPA doses as low as possible for management of symptoms, it's recommended to have some more of the plant proteins. So comparing the most common animal meat, which chicken is a good one, to say a common bean like pintos. So 200 calories of each. Chicken has over 5,000 milligrams of the amino acid leucine, while pintos only have 1,000 milligrams. And when you compare tryptophan, chicken has just over 500 milligrams, while pintos have about 185. And as for tyrosine, which competes with the L-DOPA, chicken has 1470 and the pintos 400. So the protein redistribution has also been shown to be very effective for those people that are considered fluctuators, who maybe have spikes throughout the day in their symptoms. So it just kind of helps them to stay a little more level through the day with that more predictable protein intake. It is important to understand what foods are good for people with Parkinson's and the right diet. Isn't necessarily about following strict rules, but just more of an overall eating pattern that best supports your health. It's about that synergistic effect of many of the different healthy foods working together. So other than protein, research has identified numerous areas of the diet that are influential in Parkinson's. Studies continue to demonstrate the pattern that is seen worldwide with the lowest incidence of Parkinson's in those cultures with the plant-based diet. Some studies have shown improvement in symptoms after as little as 4 weeks of changing to this way of eating. Studies also continue to reaffirm that antioxidants play a key role in neuroprotection due to their ability to mitigate that oxidative stress we talked about earlier. So some of those components, so curcumin, resveratrol, CoQ10, vitamin C, quercetin, fisetin, and then of course buying these organic whenever you can has been shown to have a higher concentration of those antioxidants, but any way you can get them is good. Another very important compound is fiber, probably one of my favorite things to talk about. Not only does it help with bioavailability of L-DOPA, but it stabilizes its concentration by retaining it in the GI system to allow increased absorption time, and it also gives the good beneficial gut bugs some good food to eat on. As they break down plant fibers, they produce chemicals that have an anti-inflammatory effect in the body, which also have been shown to boost immune function. So this brings us to the very exciting topic of gut health and the gut-brain axis. I could spend an hour talking about this, but I won't do that to you, because we're discovering just how vital the role of the gut is in all the chronic diseases, and Parkinson's disease is no exception. It has an underlying pathology and inflammation like so many of the other chronic conditions. So by the time a person with Parkinson's begins to experience symptoms, their gut microbiota likely has been out of balance for a long time, specifically related to low levels of that beneficial Prevotella and high levels of the inflammatory Enterobacteriaceae. We talked earlier about that alpha-synuclein misfolding leading to the plaques in the brain. So researchers examined old colon biopsies of Parkinson's patients, and they found this misfolded alpha-synuclein in the colon walls, and you can see that here in this diagram. When those escape, they can travel up the vagus nerve and into the brain, causing that neurotoxicity. And alpha-synuclein is in all vertebrate animals. So when animal meat is eaten, there is a consumption of the animal nerve, blood cells, muscle cells, and animal alpha-synuclein. And this intake of that alpha-synuclein is thought to result in a clumping of our own human alpha-synuclein in the gut, which we saw in that previous slide. And that's what they call the mutant alpha-synuclein. So the escape of this aggregated protein from the gut up the vagus nerve allows that neurotoxic protein to travel to the brain and cause inflammation. So age and fiber deprivation increase the risk of this happening. It's thought that the lack of animal intake, and therefore maybe the animal alpha-synuclein in the plant predominant cultures where Parkinson's disease is 5 times less likely, that may be part of the underlying reason. Also found to be highly neurotoxic are the advanced glycation end products, which are predominant in red and processed meats. HEEs are proteins or lipids that become glycated, which is that browning that food gets as a result of exposure to natural sugars. They're implicated in aging and degenerative diseases due to their contribution to oxidized stress and inflammation. Oxidation is a normal chemical reaction in the body and occurs when free radicals react with oxygen in the body. Oxidative stress, however, occurs when there's an imbalance between the free radicals and the antioxidants that are meant to balance them. Dairy has also been identified as a neurotoxin. A 2005 study published in the Journal of Neurology found a high intake of cow milk was associated with a 60% increase in Parkinson's disease overall and an 80% increase in men when compared to low intake. It was noted that more than 16 ounces daily in midlife had a 2-time increased risk of developing Parkinson's versus no intake at all. It's also speculated that it might be related to toxins in the milk or maybe even possibly an autoimmune reaction to the protein. So continuing with neurotoxins, limiting foods that disrupt the gut microbiome or increase inflammation in the body have been shown to help mitigate Parkinson's symptoms, and research suggests that high saturated fat intake disrupts the gut microbiome by altering the balance of the beneficial bacteria, leading to an inflammatory cascade, even though there's no infection present. Ultra-processed foods are neurotoxic due to their detrimental effects on the gut microbiome as well, which leads to an increased production of inflammatory molecules that trigger that systemic inflammation. Alcohol is metabolized into acetaldehyde, which is toxic, and activates the immune response in the glial cells, and that leads to neuronal damage as well. And a 2021 study found that any amount of alcohol intake causes damage to the brain versus none. But alcohol is toxic to every organ in the body. I think you probably heard the Surgeon General recently asked for a warning label to be placed on all alcohol, just like they do with the cigarettes. Herbicides and pesticides are well-known neurotoxins, and the POPs are a class that are resistant to degradation and can have long-term effects on health and the environment. Because they're fat-soluble, they dissolve into the fat tissues and accumulate over time in higher concentrations in species higher up the food chain. In 2012, a study in neurotoxicology found that DDT is detected at higher levels in the brains of those diagnosed with Parkinson's, and higher concentrations of the PCBs are in the female patients. Paraquat is a widely used Category 1 herbicide that's been used heavily on corn, cotton, soybeans, as well as grapes, peanuts, pistachios for weed control. So those would definitely be some I would recommend if you do purchase organic. It is a known neurotoxin. It's actually banned in the UK, and that was in 2007. And more recently in Canada, with there's 2 class action lawsuits underway right now for the link of Parkinson's to paraquat. The first patient in Canada was compensated in 2022 for that, but unfortunately it's still being used in the US. Heavy metals like mercury and lead are both especially neurotoxic and have been linked to an increased risk of Parkinson's. And various species of fish have been reported to be higher, have higher toxic levels. And unfortunately, Oceana reports that about 30% of our fish supply is mislabeled. Okay, so that's why it's so important for us to eat antioxidant foods, because we can't avoid all of that stuff, right? So that's some of the bad news. This is some of the good news. As we previously discussed, Parkinson's is a neurodegenerative disorder likely resulting from inflammation in the brain causing its symptoms. So focus for management and treatment of the symptoms has begun to move toward more reducing inflammation and that oxidative stress. And one of the most promising areas of the focus is on the gut-brain connection, as we talked about earlier. Feeding those good gut bugs will help create anti-inflammatory compounds, so your beans, your whole grain, your veggies, your fruits, your nuts, your seeds, and your prebiotics and probiotics like your non-dairy kefir and your kimchi. And I see so many people on probiotics, and I'm frequently asked about their use. And because the gut is so important in management of Parkinson's, I'm going to talk about those just a little bit more. So prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics, they're so vital to our health that they have been identified as one of Dr. Greger's anti-aging 8. Diversity in our gut bacteria boosts our immunity, it balances our hormones, it helps make neurotransmitters for mood balance, and it really plays a role in almost every vital piece of our physiology in our body. So when we say probiotics, we're talking about bacteria like lactobacillus and bifidobacter. When we say prebiotics, we're talking about the fiber that we're feeding those good gut bugs and the resistant starch. When we say postbiotics, we're talking about the metabolites that are broken down from those good gut bacteria eating that fiber, and that's usually our short-chain fatty acids. They go through the body and decrease inflammation. As we age, however, our gut bacteria begins to naturally decline, allowing an increase in inflammation, resulting in a phenomenon known as inflammaging, and that leads to an increased risk of disease. Fortunately, increasing fiber intake in your diet can replenish the declining gut bacteria and decrease the inflammation. This relationship is so tightly intertwined that it affects almost every function in our body. And research has identified other specific foods with compounds containing promise to help with Parkinson's management as well. Some noted to be almost as effective as pharmaceuticals. So it's surprising to see nicotine on this slide. But research has repeatedly demonstrated that smokers have a degree of protection from Parkinson's, with half the risk of developing Parkinson's disease as non-smokers. And it was found that it's the nightshade compound nicotine offering the protection. So, though in much smaller doses, nicotine is found in eggplant, green tomatoes, cauliflower, potatoes. The research shows that even just a puff of a cigarette offered neuroprotection. So the amount of nicotine in a puff is roughly the equivalent of 8 ounces of an eggplant. That's like an eggplant and a half, so that's a lot of eggplant, but just add some eggplant. Soybeans have some levodopa as well, and in a recent study in 2024, it was found that When used with medication, soy partially increased the bioavailability of levodopa and suppressed levodopa degradation. Fava beans are a natural source of levodopa at concentrations high enough actually to be considered pharmaceutically active. So a third of a cup of fava beans had a similar effect over 4 hours as 125 milligrams of levodopa combined with 12.5 of carbidopa. If fava beans became part of your daily intake, a withdrawal effect similar to that of the medication would occur. So it would be very important to not just completely stop your fava bean intake. Also important with fava beans is to make sure there's no genetic mutation for favaism prior to starting fava beans. And this is a couple of excerpts from some of those studies on fava beans. This is discussed really well actually at nutritionfacts.org with Dr. Michael Greger, and I'll have that resource at the end on this slide for you guys. As we've looked at these various pieces of modifiable risk, it's easy to see why there's so much still unclear with the cause of treatment the cause and the treatment for Parkinson's. Finding a potential target area like those that lead to inflammation or prevent inflammation seem to have the most promise. Nutrition and lifestyle represent opportunities for disease modification and other chronic illnesses, and there are potential areas to focus on for slowing the progression of Parkinson's. And as with many other chronic conditions, there's a great deal of controversy regarding the research and the effect of single nutrients due to their mixed results. But this may be the heart of the problem. Nutrients work synergistically with other compounds. So when they stand alone in a study, they may not perform like they would if all their supporting friends were with them. So for example, uric acid is a potential modifiable risk factor with competing ideologies. So knowing your uric acid level may be something that's beneficial. Elevated uric acid levels are a concern for inflammation and gout. So generally we wanted to see lower serum uric acid levels, and patients are routinely put on allopurinol or colchicine to keep those levels low. However, studies now demonstrate that low uric acid levels correlate with a greater increase in Parkinson's. So as you can see on this U-shaped graph, the risk of Parkinson's is actually higher in the levels above 10 and those below about 5. So the lowest risk is really with uric acid levels between about 6 and 8, but with 7 kind of being that sweet spot. So we've talked about a lot of factors that play into modifying the risk and management of Parkinson's: avoiding dairy, alcohol, saturated fats, processed foods, eating more plants and antioxidant foods, balancing the gut, watching your uric acid levels, minimizing neurotoxins. So these next few slides are just kind of some guidelines and recommendations to help you incorporate some of those do's and don'ts. So starting with nutrition aspect, coffee is one of the most consistently reported nutrients found to be protective. A meta-analysis of 900,000 subjects found a 28% reduction in developing Parkinson's with a max benefit at 3 cups. Tea, the flavonoid in green tea, has been shown to inhibit those fibrils for that alpha-synuclein formation we talked about. And then fiber we touched on earlier, but aiming for at least 35 to 40 grams of fiber is a goal. And then keeping protein at that recommended amount of that 0.8 grams per kilogram a day. And then keeping saturated fat low while avoiding dairy and sugar. And then over the years, I've read hundreds of studies, almost every book on plant-based whole food nutrition, attended live conferences, watched conference lectures, listened to podcasts, and I just try to really find the common threads among all of them, because that's really where you're going to find the majority of the research, kind of to support your facts. So this is the foundation of my recommendations, which are really listed. I have some handouts there in the back for you, and all of this is listed on those handouts. But these recommendations are really for decreasing inflammation, which is the root cause of all our chronic illnesses. So the daily does in there from Dr. Greger, and then just kind of the basics from Dr. Furman. And I do encourage some daily pillars of lifestyle and diet, which again apply to everyone regardless of diagnosis or their chronic disease. I encourage everyone to set yourself up for success by meal planning each week. I do give my patients a pantry list and a grocery store tour, recipes, meal ideas. I encourage them to plan out the week worth of meals. If you're going to go to a restaurant, kind of go ahead and see what's on that menu. Do some batch cooking, get at least 7 hours of sleep, super important for detoxing that brain. And then exercise at least 150 minutes. So moderate aerobic activity is something I recommend for all my patients, as well as 2 or 3 times a week of weight-bearing exercise. And then I saw y'all have some chair yoga. That's so very good. So any kind of flexibility and balance you can get in most days is really good. Of course, managing your stress, having social connections, and then avoiding those risky substances, which, like we talked about earlier, was alcohol. And then as far as diet modifications go, really just trying to stick to 3 square meals, no snacking, and then intermittent fasting. So nothing after about 6 p.m. to give that gut time to rest and digest, let that brain start getting ready for bed, detoxify, and get ready to make sleep hormones. And then eliminating all the dairy products, having no more than 2 2-ounce portions of animal products a week, but I really encourage my patients to not to have any. Drinking 64 to 90 ounces of water a day, and then eliminating oil, salt, and artificial sweeteners. And this is kind of an example of how I structured 3 meals for my patients to hit some of those starter goals. We slowly worked up to 1.5 to 2 cups of beans every day, 3 cups of raw greens, 1 to 2 cups of steamed greens, and a cup of berries. If you wanted to try that protein redistribution, you could do like a half a cup of beans at lunch, and then the rest of the dinner. As you're trying to modify risk factors that may influence symptoms of Parkinson's, I do recommend a very thorough evaluation of any over-the-counter supplements. I'm not a huge fan of multivitamins. There's just not a lot of research behind their efficacy. They're typically over-supplemented, and they usually have unnecessary components. Pre and probiotics, we already kind of touched on those. AREDs, so in the most recent studies on AREDs, if you already have macular degeneration, that was shown to be a beneficial supplement. But if you're trying to prevent macular degeneration, there was no evidence that showed that supplement did that. Vitamin A, E, folic acid, again, those are meant to be consumed with other phytochemicals and antioxidants in a kind of a synergistic symphony, so they've actually shown to increase the risks of cancer whenever they're taken alone. Let's see, protein powders. I'm kind of still on the fence about protein powders. Those are a case-by-case basis for me with most people. Lifting weights, trying to maintain muscle mass, so pea protein might be a good option. The amino acids, we've already talked about those. Those are those building blocks that compete with L-DOPA, so I really don't recommend those for anybody. Green tea supplements, these are just not well studied. There's not a lot of safety or efficacy behind those either. Red yeast rice, I do discourage this because it's been found that most supplements have toxic levels of the compound due to the inability to regulate how much lovastatin is made by that yeast. Glucosamine and friends, the studies have just failed to show efficacy or effectiveness. But if they work for you, they didn't show any problems either. So you just have to really pay really close attention to the supplements that you're purchasing. There is no governing body over the supplement industry like there is for over-the-counters or for our prescription medications. This is a $40 billion industry with 50,000 products on the market. Several studies have shown that most products don't even meet the basic standards for ingredient identification or sanitation. One study showed that 4 or 5 supplements actually have rice powder and houseplants instead of what was supposed to be on the ingredient list. But a couple that I do really like, so you've heard me mention Dr. Furman's name. I like his Essentials. It's kind of a version of a multivitamin, but it's only those specific vitamins and minerals that our food shows are lacking, largely because of our soil. So I do like that one, and I like his mushroom powders. I like vitamin D and B12. Those have been shown to be necessary, and those are in his Essentials. I like turmeric with a little sprinkle of black pepper. It has actually been found to be very beneficial too in studies. I use Benefiber as a natural prebiotic. You just get that on the Gut Health Aisle at HEB. For people who are building up their fiber intake, it's great for helping to build that good gut bacteria and decrease any symptoms. I love amla powder. It's my new best friend. I'm so happy with the results. I've seen great drops in people's cholesterol and blood sugar with it. It's also very high in antioxidants. It's got 20 times more vitamin C than an orange. It's got fiber. It's great for skin health, lowers cholesterol and triglycerides, regulates blood sugar. It's been shown to improve cancer treatments and responses to cancer treatments. I just put a little half teaspoon to a teaspoon in my tea in the mornings. Whatever you do get, in Nordic Naturals algae-based omega, that's an omega-3 supplement. I really recommend that for everyone as well. That's good for heart health as well as cognitive function. whatever you get, make sure it's done in a GMP lab and third-party verified. Those two things should either be on the bottle or on the website. And then a little here about packaging. So after discussing all the things we want to avoid in our food, it's important to know what you are really buying. You have to be a little bit of a detective because what is going on in those processed foods is not always very clear. So the labels are notoriously misleading, so just assume the front is a really good fiction story that they're trying to draw you in with. And then you want to flip it to the back so you can see the truth because they are required to tell the truth in the back of the package. So for example, things that say whole grains or multigrain, that really means nothing. They can literally sprinkle a couple of whole grains into something and call it whole grain, where everything else maybe is enriched. So you need to flip that package over, and the package ingredients, the number one thing should say 100% whole grain. But the one I hate the most is low sugar, no sugar, sugar-free. So that's implying that that is naturally sweetened, but that is never what that means, almost never. I'll say almost never. It usually means it has some kind of artificial sweetener. It's got a whole bunch of little small amounts of regular sweeteners because if it doesn't hit a certain level, they don't have to add them all together. They get to add them each individually. And then if it has stevia in it, that's not any better. These are very hard on the gut microbiome. But your $4 or $5 box of stevia leaf that you're buying at HEB is maybe a sprinkle of stevia leaf, because stevia leaf is very expensive. It's cut with erythritol. So anytime you buy a stevia product, look at it and make sure it does not have erythritol in it. Erythritol was found to be increased cardiovascular risk in a study done last January. So here's how you want to decide if something is healthy. So like I said, the first thing you want to do, look at that ingredient list. And you can see here the first word in that ingredient list is enriched. What enriched means is they pulled out all the good stuff so they could make it shelf stable, and then they sprinkled a few things back in so they could say that it was enriched. The next thing you want to do is look at the serving size. How much are we talking about? The whole package, half the package? Then you want to look at the number of calories to sodium. So this should be a 1-to-1 or less. Then you want to look at the carbohydrate to fiber content. So this should be a 5-to-1 or less ratio. So for 15 grams of carbs, you want at least 3 grams of fiber. And then you'll look at the sugar. Ideally, there's no added sugar, but at least under 3 grams is the goal. So if we look here at our example, we saw our ingredient list. We can see here we've got 2/3 of a cup. So let's look, okay, our sodium to calories is pretty good. We got 230 calories, 160 milligrams of sodium. But wow, look at that carbohydrate to fiber. That's over 9. That is a very, very highly processed food. We've got 12 grams of sugar, 10 being added. There's no research behind my 3-gram goal. That's just kind of where I find the most healthy things to be under 3 grams. This is probably a dry cereal, very processed. So I might be about to break some hearts with this next example. Dave's killer bread. He is a killer. Okay, so let's look at Dave. Okay, his ingredient list, so it's 21 whole grains. That sounds really healthy, right? What is the second ingredient? Sugar! Oh, Dave. Okay, so let's see. Serving size is 1 slice. We've got 110 calories. Wow, to 170 milligrams of sodium. That's a lot of sodium. Carbs 22, fiber is 5. Okay, that's good. We got a 4-to-1 ratio there. But that sugar is 5. The misleading part of this product is that it's a healthy bread. And if you were looking only at the ingredient list, your eyes might quickly go over the fact that the second ingredient is cane sugar, but if you come all the way down, you've also got organic molasses, which is also just another word for sugar. So unfortunately, this bread is too high in sugar and too high in sodium to be considered a healthy part of your daily diet. A better example, though, is Ezekiel bread. So this is a low-sodium sprouted bread. You can look at your ingredient list, nice and tight there. There's not a lot of stuff. We've got 1 slice as our serving size. 80 calories, no sodium, very good. We've got our 5-to-1, we got 3 grams of carbs, 15 grams of carbs, 3 grams of fiber, and no sugar. And we got 5 grams of protein. This is an excellent option. So I have a little case presentation here. So this is one of my patients. She's a 68-year-old female with a history of Parkinson's, hyperlipidemia, prediabetes, overweight, history of breast cancer, and thyroid abnormality. She was being treated with both levodopa-carbidopa combo and the adjunct MAOI for her management of her disease, Parkinson's. She lost almost 30 pounds. Her BMI came down into the normal range of 24. Her A1C dropped from a pre-diabetic range of 5.9 down to 5.3. Her insulin resistance, that IR, dropped from 39 to undetectable at 25. Her TMAO from 4.5 to less than 3.3, that's undetectable. And her LDL dropped from a high of 175 to a low of 122. And her triglyceride dropped from a high of 139 to a low of 98. So like I said, IR, that's insulin resistance. This measures how effective the body's insulin is at regulating blood sugar. Is an indication toward prediabetes and diabetes. TMAO, so that's trimethylamine dioxide, is a endotoxin made by the bad gut bacteria from the animal product consumption that leads to inflammation. So just like when we feed those good gut bugs fiber, they make those short-chain fatty acids that decrease inflammation. When we feed the bad gut bugs animal products, those munch that down and they make TMAO, which is an inflammatory, and it kind of goes up, causes inflammation. So regardless of the disease process, I kind of run the same baseline lab on all my patients. But I had seen her husband first, and he had wanted to avoid statins and better manage his diabetes. Let's see, over the same period of time, he lost 25 pounds, improved his diabetic neuropathy, decreased his blood pressure medications, and he dropped his small LDL from 678 to a near normal at 573, normals at less than 527. His insulin resistance dropped from 74 to 57, and under 45 is what we're looking for. And then his TMAO dropped from 6.1 to 3.4. His A1C came down from 6.5 to 6.1. And all his cardiovascular risk markers came back in the low range. So that there's a couple that I look at that really can give me an idea of whether or not we're building plaque in those artery walls, and that's those ones that I have listed there. His goals were a little more cardiovascular focused, so I did do some additional cardiovascular risk markers from him. And I had the pleasure to see them recently, and like every visit, they always reported how much better they felt, how much energy they had, and their change in their health was remarkable. Not only from the weight, I could see that always when they walked in the room, but their energy level, their positivity changed. It always just gave me such joy every time I got to see them in the exam room. Okay. So these are some of my favorite things. HEB, I have a list of things there that I get. I have a list of things at natural grocers I get, and then some stuff I buy online. And Sprouts is here. I'm super excited about Sprouts. It's got a lot of fun stuff. I haven't really done a tour there yet, but I'm gonna do that one soon. And then I have some resources, so some different books that I really like, some cookbooks, some documentaries, and then I just have some Parkinson's disease references. A lot of these are the studies that I talked about today. And then I have some resources down here. Dr. Steve Blake, I found him very interesting. I don't know if anybody knows him or not. He's got some great peer-reviewed papers online. He's a nutritional biochemist, and he specializes in cognitive disorders, as well as Dr. Frank Sabatino. He's a PhD in neuroendocrinology, and he actually interviews Dr. Blake at a great podcast that I have listed here. And then Dr. Greger, he's my hero. He has nutritionfox.org. He reviews every single research article that comes out on nutrition and health throughout the year, and he really looks at those things we talked about, longevity, who funded the study, and he looks at the validity of how they did it. He gives you an idea of whether or not that's a good thing. You can type in CoQ10, and he'll tell you whether CoQ10 is a good option. And that's it. I don't know if y'all do questions or not, but typically at the end I have questions there. So. Yeah.
When you went back to some supplements that you really liked, it was something that had 4 letters in it. I've never heard of it.
AMLA powder. So AMLA powder is an Indian gooseberry, and it's just ground down into the powder form. Yeah, and the one I like online is through Amazon. It's called Terrasol, Terrasoul.
I actually have a testimony on almond powder.
It's great, right?
Yes, I came to your lecture with alternative wellness, and I said, I'm curious about this, so I bought some.
Okay.
And it's very potent. I was only doing a half a teaspoon, just 10
It's sour.
water.
Oh, it tastes pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Well, I had a health issue. I had to go to the doctor, and I got a metabolic panel done. I had, don't criticize the bread. I had a piece of sourdough. I didn't know what
Sourdough's good if you're going to say
I didn't know
sourdough.
what's
Okay.
going to get my blood gone, but I had a sourdough toast
Okay.
with butter and an egg for breakfast, and
Killing
my
me.
sugar level was 71.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm telling you. I have people that have come in with half their LDL cholesterol, half in 12 weeks, and I accuse them of starting a statin without telling me. And they said, no, I started the amla powder you told me about.
Can you go back to your list of favorites?
Sure. And I'll give this PowerPoint to James, and he can send it to anybody that wants it to. Yeah.
Was animal powder made effective for someone with Hashimoto's?
So I have Graves, which is the opposite of Hashimoto's. So it wouldn't hurt. It's an antioxidant. So, Hashimoto's also is an autoimmune, so underlying is inflammation there too. And that amla powder is going to help all levels of inflammation. So it would definitely be beneficial for you.
My daughter had Graves, removed the thyroid.
Yeah.
Severe Hashimoto's.
Yeah, they wanted to burn my thyroid.
She was gaining 100 pounds.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
But she's doing better. She's on a working with nutrition and drop, kind of on her injections.
Yeah, yeah.
She's pre-diabetic.
Yeah.
She's now
Yeah.
and so she's working with nutrition. She's got 40 pounds.
Good.
It's not easy.
Encourage her to read that Eat to Live book that I mentioned at the very beginning.
I forgot that.
It's
So
good.
I'll-
And on the powder. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I primarily take multiple vitamin for the iodine.
Mm-hmm.
If I pitch the multiple vitamin, how do I get iodine?
Tell me why you're taking extra iodine.
They say it's good for your thyroid. Thyroid work is good.
So just like anything else, too much or too little of something can actually be harmful. And especially people with thyroid disease, they need to be really careful with iodine. So if you're eating just a regular diet, you're getting all of the iodine you need in the regular food that you eat.
Okay.
So you don't need to take that vitamin just for iodine. But this Dr. Furman's multi that I was talking about, he does have a very small amount of iodine because most plant-based people don't get a lot of sodium because we don't eat a lot of processed foods. So sometimes you do, but if you're just eating a regular standard American diet, you're getting all the iodine you need. Anybody else? Yes.
Hello.
Hi, stranger.
The fava beans, are they the only beans with dopamine, or can I get
Fava
it from
beans are the
other
only ones with pharmaceutically active levels of dopamine. So the chickpeas have a little bit, and then soy actually helps to hold on to that bioavailability of your L-DOPA. But I think it said 1.5 tablespoons or spoonfuls of roasted soybeans actually was shown to have some L-DOPA as well. But the fava beans have far more.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you bring with you any type of reference material, handout?
Yes, sir. I have about 10 things back in the back with this gentleman right there. And one of the things on there is all of those things where I said that daily intake.
We're not going to remember all this.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
What about almond?
Yeah, I like almond milk. So just like anything else, you just want to make sure you take a look at that ingredients list. Ideally, you want as few things as possible. I'm not a fan of oat milk because oat milk usually has quite a bit of oil in it. You want to also be careful with coconut milk because a lot of times it has higher saturated fat. But soy milk is actually my favorite. Soy is actually very good for you. It's, there's a big breast cancer scare, but actually soy is one of the main ways to prevent breast cancer because that's a phytoestrogen, not an actual estrogen. So especially for my men, I usually recommend soy milk because it's also an excellent source of protein.
When you said you reversed your Graves, you no longer on the
So I was on the opposite. I was on methimazole, which is an anti-thyroid because I had too much. I had the opposite. I was hyper. And I was in thyroid storm. I had a heart rate of 154. I thought I was having a heart attack. But yeah, they wanted to burn out my thyroid in order to fix that. Anybody else? Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I apologize if I talked too fast also.
As we begin to wrap up, I want to invite up our music team. This is another one of those little breakouts we did. We had Steven here earlier. We have Frank. We have Catherine here. So it's okay if you don't have a great singing voice, or if you have a wonderful singing voice. It doesn't really matter. We're going to do a little bit of singing. We've got a couple of announcements, and then we'll get out of here. Frank, Catherine, take it away.
Thank you. Susan is normally with us, but she had to book out, so hopefully we'll have Susan with us next time. We are the GAPS sing-along team, and every first, third, and fifth Sunday, or Monday, when we have a fifth Monday in the month, we are here at 1 o'clock, and we have a really fun sing-along. We learn the songbook, and Frank is our fabulous accompanist, and we just have a good time, and we would love if you would come and join us. I promise. I won't make you sing a solo, Joan. All right, here we go. We're going to start. We're going to do 2 songs from our sing-along. We're going to start with "He's Got the Whole World in His Hands." All right, Frank. All right, here we go. He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 He's got the wind and the rain in his hands. He's got the wind and the rain in his hands. He's got the wind and the rain in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the little bitty baby in his hands. He's got the little bitty baby in his hands. He's got the little bitty baby in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got you and me, brother. In his hands, he's got you and me, brother. In his hands, he's got you and me, brother. In his hands, he's got the whole world in his hands. Very good. I heard some singers out there. All right. We always end our sing-along with the sings. Who can tell me what artist sang, and this was his theme song, Happy Trails?
You know,
You have to be of a certain age to know this song. It's a great song, so we always end with Happy Trails. We're going to sing this through twice. All right, Frank. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the stars when we're together? Just sing the song and bring the sunny weather. Happy trails to you. Here we go again. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds when we're together? Just sing the song and bring the sunny weather. Happy trails to you till we meet again. Very good. Thank you. I hope you see
Thank you guys. Just a couple of quick announcements as we get ready to wrap up here. First of all, next month we will be right here again, February 27th, with another new special guest, Dawn Sanders, who is a certified neuroscience coach, and she will be sharing with us some practical steps to supercharge our brain health. So mark your calendars for that, February 27th, right here. And for those of you that didn't make our social this month, we've got one coming up next month. We're going to be at the Barking Armadillo. That's February 20th at 4:30, not at 4 p.m. It's going to be 4:30. Encourage you to join us for that. Just a great time together. Art therapy, one of the classes that we offer, we do this once a month, and it happens to be coming up this week over at the Oscar, Tuesday, January 28th, 1:30, and that's with Cindy Martin. I encourage you guys to come and take that class. I actually did that class in November. I did a fun little Christmas thing. It was way cool. You guys will love Cindy and her class. This Tuesday at 1:30 over at the Oscar. We also have our Care Partner Support Group meeting coming up. This is specifically for caregivers. I lead that group right here on campus at First Baptist, not in this room, but in the front room. That'll be February 13th at 2 o'clock. We'd love to see all of you there who are caregivers. And Anne-Marie does exist. She's still working on her refrigerator at home. But every Wednesday, she is right here at First Baptist, not First Baptist, at the Church of Christ, which is the one next door, at 11:30 with our chair yoga class. That happens every week, Wednesday at 11:30. I encourage you. I saw a lot of hands, folks that had never been to one of our classes. I encourage you to attend some of these classes. Give them a try. After our voice exercise and music therapy class that happens here on Mondays, we have a card group at 2 o'clock on Mondays in the exact same room. You can talk to Dudley back there. He's smiling at me right now. He would love to kick your butt at spades and some other games. I hear he's an expert at it. I haven't played him yet, but I can't wait to try. So talk to Dudley about that. He is back there. And then voice therapy, I kind of mentioned that. Mary Jane is still leading that class. We're actually looking for a speech therapist right now to lead that. Until then, we're stuck with Plan B, which is not really Plan B because it's Mary Jane. She's amazing. So I encourage you to join us Mondays here at First Baptist for that. And if you're ever interested in volunteering, we are always looking for volunteers. If you volunteered with us today and you came at 2 o'clock, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're so grateful for you guys. You can get all of this information and more on our website. We have completely overhauled our website. It is gapstx.org. For those of you that came in and tried to do the registration through the paper or the iPad, you can actually go online and do it there. The very first page that pops up, there's a subscribe to our e-news. If you click on that, the form pops up. We would love to connect with you, learn more about you and how we can serve you. So I really, really encourage you to go on there and do that. It's gapstx.org. The very first thing that pops up in the right or in the bottom left corner, you'll see a button that says subscribe to e-news. Click on that, give us your information, and we would love to connect with you. And then, of course, you can connect with me directly. That is my personal mobile number. I'm always available to you guys except for like 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Don't call me then. It'll go to voicemail. But you can always get a hold of me. info@gapstx.org is our email address. And then again, our website at gapstx.org. Again, I want to mention our sponsors one more time. Supernus, AbbVie, Acadia, Amneal, Grand Living, this church, Medtronic, the Anna and Anton Olson Legacy Foundation, and Visiting Angels. We are so grateful for them. And as we wrap up, this is just something that I like to do. It's just such a privilege to be able to honor and serve you. And so I want to leave you with a little bit of a community blessing today. It says this: may you find strength in your struggles, peace in the midst of your uncertainty. May your spirit remain unshaken, a light of hope for every challenge. May courage guide your steps and love surround you always. May you never, never walk this path alone, embraced by the care of this community right here and all those around you. Guys, thanks so much for being here today. Oh, I'm being flagged. Oh, you want to say? We're going to audible.
I'm Diane Burns. That was my lab work up there. So I just want to give a testimony. It is great. I think it helps your Parkinson's. The absorption of your medicine works much better. I had no off time. I used to around this time I'd have some maybe off time, and it's gone. With my medicine, I haven't changed my dosage in quite a while. More energy. No, I had a lot of gut issues, and it disappeared with the diet. And it looks like I can't have beef or meat. I don't miss it. and actually have more. It's kind of fun. How many ways can you fix beans? It's not just a can of beans. I mean, I had vegan lasagna, very good. What else, George? Well, with this cold weather, bean soup, and throw everything in it. And it's good. So I would strongly recommend it, because I know constipation is a huge issue with Parkinson's, and it's one less thing you don't have to worry about. And she's great. So I recommend Stacy.
I forgot to mention one thing. We're all kind of serve as volunteers here as we depart. If you guys would help me, stack the chairs, we will pull the racks and all that stuff out. And again, thank you guys so much for coming. Hope you'll join us again next month.